Hi, my name is Sanam. I'm a second-year History and International Relations student at King's College London, and today I'll be speaking about an article I recently wrote for GenZs entitled Hidden Yet Entrenched Inequalities in Higher Education Post-Apartheid, Black South African Women and the Legacy of Racial Conflict. Before I tell you more about my research, I wanted to explain why I chose to participate in this internship and why I decided to write on this topic. Having mainly written in an academic style, I saw this internship as a valuable opportunity to expand my writing skills into journalism. Alongside this, I was interested in exploring different forms of communication, such as creating podcasts and infographics that I've not had the opportunity to do before. In addition, I found Arts for Refugees' mission to explore the struggle and strength of communities in the aftermath of conflict highly important, especially as this kind of work highlights issues that often do not get enough media attention. This therefore inspired me to want to play a part in sparking meaningful and impactful dialogue by researching topics that I am interested in outside of the content of my degree. In my work, I wanted to document the resilience of Black South African women in their struggle for equal access to higher education. I chose this topic because throughout my studies, I have witnessed how women's rights are often treated as a peripheral problem, something that is overlooked or dismissed in mainstream political discourse. For example, in my first year, I studied international relations theory and quickly learned how the mainstream theories of IR, such as realism, liberalism, and constructivism, essentially exclude women from their analysis of international politics. I believe that education is one of the most important solutions to this marginalization, and increasing women's access and participation in traditionally male-dominated fields is a highly effective tool in dismantling these systemic barriers to women's prosperity, socially, politically, and economically. I also studied apartheid in South Africa for my history A-level, so I wanted to expand my knowledge and understanding of the legacy of racial conflict after the regime was dismantled, as well as zoom in on the ongoing policy initiatives and efforts to achieve equality in higher education, focusing on the experience of Black South African women. So, before I delve into some of the key case studies included in my article, I wanted to provide some historical context. Apartheid, meaning apartness, was the Afrikaans name given by the white-ruled South African Nationalist Party to their institutionalized system of racial segregation. Although the regime was established in 1948, which legalized racism's harshest features, many of the segregationist policies dated back to the early decades of the 20th century. During apartheid, the education system was segregated by race, which limited educational and professional opportunities for Black South Africans. In particular, South African women faced the double burden of racial and gender discrimination. There were great disparities in spending between Black and white South African education, which led to inadequate school provisions for Black South Africans. Furthermore, gender-based violence and patriarchal structures were another barrier to higher education for Black South African women. For example, higher education institutions remained geared towards the production of masculine privilege. This means that women find themselves victimized in the very system that is supposed to be promoting civility and knowledge. As a result, the number of Black South African women entering higher education remained extremely low, revealing how racial segregation and patriarchal structures were the prime instruments for inequality. The apartheid regime came to an end in the early 1990s, in a series of steps, negotiations, and compromises between the Nationalist Party and the African National Congress, also known as the ANC, which led to the formation of a multiracial democratic government in 1994, following years of violent internal protest, weakening white South African commitment, international economic and cultural sanctions, economic turmoil, and the end of the Cold War. The ANC took office in April 1994 after South Africa's first democratic multiracial elections. Creating a system that provides quality education regardless of race, class, or gender was one of the greatest challenges facing the new government in 1994. The ANC, under the presidential leadership of Nelson Mandela, introduced various initiatives for a non-racialized and non-sexist educational environment. The Bill of Rights, under the new Constitution of 1996, specified the government's responsibility to make education accessible to all. The government also appointed women to senior positions in the government, and enacted laws such as the Higher Education Act of 1997 to ensure the equitable treatment of historically excluded groups. Outside of government, inspiring individuals such as Irene Butlana at the Vaal University of Technology played a pivotal role in improving the accessibility and quality of education, particularly by supporting Black South African students' entry into higher education through funding. NGOs also play an important role in building a sustainable future. Sonke Gender Justice is a prominent example. By partnering with universities and advocating gender equality, Sonke Gender Justice is helping to create a safer, more supportive environment for women in higher education. Their efforts have been crucial in dismantling patriarchal and misogynistic attitudes, eliminating discrimination, pioneering structural change, unity, and connectedness in South Africa. Today, women constitute most of the student population at universities. According to the Council on Higher Education, women made up 58% of university enrollments by 2018. However, the legacy of apartheid still persists. While the rise of Black South African women in higher education is a story of transformational change, it is vital to understand the many complex challenges that women continue to face in South Africa's higher education system. In my article, I wanted to make sure that while the significant progress in the status of Black South African women's access to quality education was conveyed, I also wanted to emphasize how the architecture of the past continues to influence the present. This underscores why efforts to tackle them are therefore of critical necessity. This topic has been very interesting and thought-provoking to research, and I'd like to thank everyone at BizGs and Arts for Refugees for this amazing opportunity to learn and collaborate. Thank you so much for listening.